Okay, the very first thing, when we talk about super, when you die, your superannuation benefits turns into death benefits. So when you're alive, your super, everybody's got an interest in their super. It's what we call superannuation interest. On death, those super benefits get converted automatically into death benefits. So we're talking about death benefits here. What everybody should know is that on death, the death benefits need to be cashed out of super within a reasonable time, or as soon as practicable. And that's usually within 3 to 6 months, depending on the circumstances of the super fund. If there's a beneficiary that you can't find, that's one reason why it can't be cashed out yet. So that could take a couple of years. But if it's pretty straightforward, you know who the beneficiaries are. The assets are comprised of probably cash and some shares. That can be solved off pretty quickly, and that can be cashed out as a death benefit. The death benefits are governed by your trust deed. Your deed will tell you how you take out those death benefits. That can be taken out in the form of a lump sum, a death benefit pension, or a reversionary pension. I'll be talking about each of these things as we go along. Let's go back to the question, what happens to your super when you die? Okay, this depends on a number of factors. What does the deed say? Each of you have got a self-managed super fund. You've got a document called the deed, superannuation fund deed. That tells you what happens on death, what happens to your super. There's a lot of clauses there, but there are clauses to do with death. The second factor is a binding death nomination. I'll be talking about a lot about this particular issue throughout the presentation. And is the fund in pension mode, and does it automatically transfer to your dependent upon death? I'll be talking about that as well. The trust deed. Always review the trust deed. So obviously, this is where we come in as your accountants and lawyers as well. The lawyer needs to look at your trust deed. What does the deed say about death benefits? The deed needs to be updated on a regular basis, because there are changes, as you know, with superannuation, and the clauses need to be updated to reflect those changes. Binding death nomination. What is it? Okay, it's purely a direction by yourselves as individual members of a superannuation fund, telling whoever is the trustee of that fund, the remaining trustee of that fund, where you wish your death benefits to go to. Now, binding death nominations, they need to be drafted in a certain way. Well, they are drafted. There are templates around, but normally solicitors can draft a special one that's tailored to your needs. But they need to be valid and effective in order to hold water. Otherwise, if they're invalid, you've just wasted time in doing a binding death nomination, because what I'll be explaining as I go on is that your super may go to unintended beneficiaries. Okay, so what makes a binding death nomination valid and effective? It must be in writing. It has to be signed and dated by the member. It has to be witnessed by 2 witnesses, independent witnesses. And those witnesses can't be whoever's going to be benefiting from those death benefits. So I've seen over the last half a dozen years that people do their binding death nominations. Say, for example, the husband nominates the wife to receive 100% of the death benefit. So he signs it because he's the member. But sometimes I find that one of the witnesses is the wife. That's invalid. Because the law says, superannuation law says, it has to be 2 independent adult witnesses. The wife is not, first of all, the wife is benefiting from the super. So how can she be an independent person? The same thing with children. If you're nominating children to receive the death benefits and they're witnessing, that's also invalid. So, and I'll be demonstrating how a bond and death nomination can be invalid, because I'll be talking about some cases in 2 or 3 slides down. Who can you nominate? Okay, it has to be a dependent. A dependent for superannuation law purposes. This is what we technically call SIS dependents, SIS dependents. They are a spouse, a legal spouse, a child of any age, so it can be anybody under 18 or over 18, an interdependent person. What that means technically would be, say, a son and mother living together in the house. You know, they're looking after each other, and they're interdependent of each other. And a financial dependent. So if you've got somebody living with you who's financially dependent on you, he or she can qualify as a dependent for this purpose. So therefore you can nominate that person to receive your death benefits. The other person that you can nominate is what we call a personal legal representative. That person is a person who, if you do a will, you normally nominate an executor in the will, or the trustee of that will. If there's no will in existence and you pass away, what happens is whoever is close to you, could be a family member, or could even be a friend, can go to the courts and appoint themselves as an administrator of your deceased estate. So that person will become your personal legal representative. So, and if that's the case, if there's no will, that means that the laws of interstate come in. Not interstate as is New South Wales, or I'm talking about interstate, that's what it's called. You've died interstate. Then you've got interstate laws coming in. And what that tells you is that your assets get distributed in accordance with a certain formula.